News that we are breaking to you on the IT rules controversy. Twitter files a response in the Delhi High Court, where Twitter says mandatory appointments will be done in 8 weeks, interim officials to be appointed in 2 weeks. Permanent appointments will be done within a period of 8 weeks, is what the Twitter has now submitted in the Delhi High Court. So clearly, it seems Twitter has decided to get its act together. It has given a timeline before which, in fact, a deadline before which it is going to complete all the permanent appointments. What it says that in the meanwhile, there will be interim officials appointed within 2 weeks. So those appointments will happen within 2 weeks so that immediate issues can be addressed. But permanent appointments to the position of, say, grievance officer, redressal officer, certain key positions that are now mandated by the new IT rules, which remain vacant. Twitter says those posts will be filled by interim officials within 2 weeks and by permanent officials within a period of 2 months. So Twitter seeking more time. Of course, remember the earlier deadline expired for making these appointments, and Twitter faced a lot of flack from the central government on this issue for the non-compliance of IT rules. Now the social media giant has come up with a timeline saying they are willing to complete all appointments within a period of 8 weeks, and those will be permanent appointments. Nilashish joining me on the phone line with more inputs on the story. Nilashish, is this Twitter getting its act together, falling in line, but then again seeking more time to get their appointments done?
It's a very, very interesting affidavit filed by the microblogging site, where it has said that it requires 8 more weeks to comply with the requirements of appointing a chief compliance officer, a resident grievance officer, and a nodal contact person on a permanent basis. It has also stated that, of course, interim appointments for a chief compliance officer are effective from July the 6th. An interim resident grievance officer will be appointed by July the 11th, and an interim appointment with regard to a nodal contact person will take place in 2 weeks. This is something that is very interesting because of the amount of time that Twitter is seeking. Additionally, what Twitter has said with regard to complying with the requirements is that it has even given an interim physical address for itself in India. Remember, that is another big requirement as far as the new IT rules, that there must be a physical contact address in the country, and Twitter has given an interim physical address, and it has also stated that it will file its first compliance report for a period between 26th May and 25th June by the 11th of July. That is a compliance report which is also consistent with the new rules. However, very significantly, what Twitter goes on to say is that while it is striving to comply with the rules, it reserves its rights to challenge the legality and the validity and the virus of these rules. Twitter basically is saying that though it is trying to comply with these rules, that aspect should not be seen as prejudicial to its rights to challenge these rules. So Twitter taking a very, very balanced stand in a way and not really committing wholeheartedly towards the rules, though it's saying that it is trying to commit to these rules. So very, very interesting and significant development here as far as Twitter is concerned. The case, in fact, is listed before High Court today, and
Yes.
as soon as it comes up, it should be very interesting to see what the High Court says, because remember, on the last date of hearing, the High Court had said that if Twitter thinks that it will take all the time it wants to comply in our country, we will not allow it. 8 weeks' time seems like a lot of time. However, we will see what the court says during the course of the day when this matter comes up for hearing.
Yes, so if this is the case, if this is the time required for making a permanent appointment, they could have done it much earlier. Why did they show this kind of laxity? That question remains. And also, after what you have just told us, is this full compliance, or is this coming with a lot of caveats, which is interesting, like you mentioned? Thanks for joining us, Nilashish.